Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to our Faith Community Nurse Monthly Chat. I am thrilled to be here in this month of March, which since the last time we met, we have changed seasons and it is now spring. So welcome everyone to spring. I would like to welcome first our presenter for today. We are very thrilled to have Father Kirtley Yearwood with us today that will be presenting on leaning into well-being. So welcome all. Thank you for joining us for this hour of time together, reflection, education, and to catch up on what each one of us is doing in our ministries. So without further ado, I would like to introduce our reflection for today. And as I mentioned, we have changed season in the spring. And as a prelude to what Father is going to share for us about being our authentic selves, I think the gift of God's creation in nature gives us an example, many examples of what truth, beauty, and authenticity means. So with that, we are going to enjoy a very short video in prayer. Lucia?
You're the resurrection that we've waited for. You buried the night, you came with the morning. You're the King of heaven, the praise is yours. The longer the quiet, the louder the chorus. We'll sing a new song. He's dead and gone with the winner. We'll sing a new song. Let hallelujahs flow like a river. We're coming back to life, reaching towards the light. Your love is like springtime. You're the living water, God, we thirst for you. The dry and the barren will flower and bloom. You're the sun that's shining, you restore my soul. The deeper you call us, oh, the deeper we'll go. We will sing a new song. Dead and gone with the winner. We'll sing a new song. Let hallelujahs flow like a river. We're coming back to life, reaching towards the light. Your love is like springtime. Come tend the soil, come tend the soil of my soul. And like a garden I will grow. I will grow. Come tend the soil, come tend the soil of my soul. And like a garden I will grow. marching towards the light. Your love like springtime, like springtime.
Thank you, Lucia, for playing that for us. So if ever there's an example that God is near and God is with us constantly, certainly the new birth of spring and all the beauty it brings with us is a reminder for our souls. So with that as a prelude to set our minds in the peace of God's creation, I turn this over to Janice, who's going to introduce Father Kirtley for us. Janice?
Yes, good afternoon, everyone. We're delighted to have our very own Father Kirtley Yearwood with us today, who's our Chief Mission Officer of Holy Cross Health, Maryland. Father Kirtley is an Episcopal priest and a physician. He trained in anatomic and clinical pathology and subspecialized in breast and gynecological pathology, perinatal, pediatric, and forensic pathology as well. Over the years, Father Kirtley has served a number of Episcopal parishes while practicing medicine, including as a consultant in congregational leadership, development, and mission planning, and in clergy employment searches. He brings experience in organizational development, especially intentional navigation of challenging circumstances and bridge building during times of leadership transitions. He's certified in appreciative inquiry and as a clergy coach. Father Kirtley has also taught at George Washington University School of Medicine and Health Sciences. And before joining us here at Holy Cross Health, Father Kirtley served as the spiritual health clinician at Emory University Hospital, Midtown in Atlanta, and taught liturgy at the Candler School of Theology at Emory. He's passionate about spirituality and medicine and is particularly interested in the practice of the clinical arts as vocation, the care of and building resilience and cultivating well-being with physicians and other clinicians in narrative medicine. Father Kirtley is nourished by monastic prayer disciplines following the Benedictine rule of life as a vowed member of the Society of the Resurrection, which is in the I keep saying Ukraine, but it's the United Kingdom. See what's on my mind. He seeks to offer generous hospitality, and the motto is all guests who present themselves are to be welcomed like Christ. Thank you so much again, Father Kirtley, and now we'll turn it over to you.
Thank you for that introduction, which I had no idea was coming. Thank you all very much for the opportunity to gather this afternoon to share conversation and really to begin to explore among ourselves ways of caring for not only for ourselves and for others. I wish to use story and circles of listening as a way to enter into this. So in a moment, I will invite all of us to listen to a story with the ears of our heart and then to reflect upon what is revealed to us in a time of stillness as we experience and explore another concept of virtual forest bathing. Has anyone ever experienced forest bathing before? Hands or anything? No. So you get a short feel of that shortly. Then we will encounter another story, a story of community, as we are invited then to listen again, but this time to place ourselves in our shared story in line with where we are. So what I would like to do, one of my practices always is to begin with a one-word check-in, recognizing that we come at this 12:43 hour with so many things going on this morning. We could have other appointments this afternoon. So although we may be physically in the room, we may not be mentally or emotionally present. So I invite you to take a moment and center yourselves, get comfortable, take a deep breath, kind of center yourself and just kind of just feel your own presence. And in a moment, just, shout out or put in chat the one word that describes where you are right now. It could be any word at all, but describes where you are at this present moment at 12:43 and 12:44 p.m.
Peaceful.
Peaceful. Great. Thank you for
Grateful.
sharing. Grateful.
Here.
Stephanie's right in peace of God, and Janet's right, relax. Great. Wonderful. Anyone else would like to share? Lucy is typing. Let's see what she types. Determined. Good. I like that word. It's on path, as I like to say. Great. Good. Wonderful. Thank you all very, very much. Okay. So thank you for sharing. My purpose there was to get a sense of where we are collectively as one body, and to see how far we are apart or together, to begin to know how I can then enter into this conversation. So use it as a way of determining how I should enter in. Okay. If you don't mind, I would like to share my screen. I have a couple of slides here and use that as the opportunity to present to you. So let me try this here. Let's see, I have to open up the sound here. And I'm going to do this here. Can we all see my screen?
Yes.
Okay, so when my screen is up, I'm unable to see anyone. So I can't see nods or statements or anything like that. So let's begin. Okay. Great, fantastic. So as I said, we're going to launch into a conversation about the zone of well-being. I would explain that concept and then share a story and invite you to listen with the ear of your heart. Then we'll explore moments of forest bathing in a virtual sense. Then we'll gather again, and I'll share another story about listening for your song, I call it, the teaser that we put out before this introductory conversation, as a way to enter into depth of where I would like to take us. There are no breakout sessions. I had that there's a placeholder in case there was a larger group gathered. I had no idea how many people would be here, but we'll do it as one group, of course, and share any insights, and then revisit leaning into well-being, and then end with circle of listening through a video that Holy Cross recently commissioned, and it was premiered when Cardinal Gregory came to bless our COVID medallions just a few weeks ago. So that's the order I would like us to proceed in today. We've just done our check-in, so let's launch directly into our conversation. Now, I want to give credit for this term zone of well-being to Elaine Milicaris, who is at Loma Linda in California, and we've worked through the building resilience to trauma. I love the zone of well-being concept. I'm a very visual person. I depend so much on graphics as a way to see, and not only with my eyes, but with my heart as well. So I get very much excitement from thinking about this and sharing this with you as a way how I like to approach the way of we care for ourselves as well as we care for others. So it would not surprise any individual to recognize that life is not a straight line at all. There are lots of high points in our lives. There are also lots of low points. Life is full of ups and downs, peaks and troughs and valleys, all sorts of rocky roads, smooth roads, deep waters. Life is never, ever a straight line, but we tend to go along doing quite well. Most of the time, every individual operates within a certain zone of well-being. Your zone is different from my zone, from her zone, from his zone, etc. But what is important is we all have a place that's we are comforted by the high point and low point, and we gather within this homeostasis area. We only get in trouble emotionally and spiritually and other ways when we somehow find ourselves outside of our zone. So, how do we think about our zone of well being and relate that to the work of caring for ourselves and for others? Well, many times we may have some incident, some traumatic event or anything. Your dog may fall ill or financial difficulty or job challenges. It doesn't matter what the event is, but it's something is going to trigger. Life is always filled with ups and downs. Even Jesus, crucifixion, for example, people opposed to him, always triggers. When that happens, many times we're simply thrown out of kilter. If this were to be the case, and we respond in this fashion, we'll still be within our zone and we'll keep on going quite well without any problems whatsoever. However, occasionally we may find ourselves stuck in a very high place outside our high point. When that happens, many times we have symptoms of anxiety or panic, irritability. Many we are stuck up there. The challenge is how do we get unstuck? How do we get back to our zone where we are comfortable? Other occasions, there could be situation or situations where we find ourselves stuck in a low zone or someone else, and they may exhibit depression, exhaustion, sadness, burnout, fatigue, numbness. These are just a few examples. But no, we tend as individuals to be able to recognize individuals who are stuck in their high zone. It's much, much more challenging to recognize individuals, ourselves, or others when they're stuck in the low zone. People may simply be quiet. People may use words like burnout, exhaustion, compassion fatigue, all kinds of fancy terms because really are unsure. We don't really know for sure, but we know the person somehow may not be, or we themselves might not be within our normal zone. So this is an important visual for me I want to share with you because you would recognize, therefore, if you were here at this point, you were still within you're below your high point, you're above your low point. So you can adjust and keep on going and function in a normal fashion. If you are up here, however, you're not. But what if your high zone were here, or even your low zone were here? Therefore, when these triggers occur, you would be within your zone of well-being. Therefore, you would be able to kind of adjust in whatever way works for you. And what works for one individual may not work for another. So as I like to consider the work of caring for ourselves, I like to lean in because it's a process. It's not a straight wall, it's a porous and nimbleness. It's important, therefore, to think in terms of how do we increase our zone of well-being such that our high point is higher and our low point is lower as we encounter various stressors and triggers in our life. And that is where I would like us to begin the conversation and eventually end. So how do we go about increasing our zone of well-being? And that is always the approach that has serves us well as we lean into well-being now through story and circles of listening. Understanding well-being, people speak a lot about resilience as the ability to bounce back from life challenges and quickly return to balance. Without resilience, the emotional and cognitive challenges we face could be consuming, making it quite difficult to shift our attention to the needs of others or ourselves. It's a key capacity in expanding compassion, which is critical. It's in our mission statement. Compassionate healing presence is one of the four core values of the Sister Holy Cross. It's everywhere. But the aspect of caring for self, that is self-compassion, is an essential component in building and strengthening resilience, our ability to kind of stay the course and remain within a zone of well-being. So as one thinks about well-being, it's important to recognize there are multiple aspects here. Well-being is made up of the building of resilience and the cultivation of compassion. I see my arrow got misplaced here. And it's actually an ongoing connection between resilience and compassion. Both are critically important in promoting well-being. A lot of conversation in the literature and everywhere about building resilience, building resilience. Resilience is used by so many specialties and groups and disciplines. We don't talk as much about compassion, the other half of the coin. And of these two, my bias is toward compassion, given the scriptural evidence and the wonderful work of Jesus and others in the Gospels and the stories. So building resilience and cultivating compassion all go to promoting well-being both. So with that, I would like us to consider our own story and place that against the story of another. We are beloved individuals. We are beloved of God. Our belovedness begins without asking. We're simply beloved. We are part of the beloved community as Christian folk, as faith-seeking individuals. And so with that, I would like us to just take a pause and listen to a story. Actually, it's a poem by John Richardson, simply called Beloved is Where We Begin. And I want us always, because we are persons of faith, to always begin in our belovedness. Always remind ourselves and each other and others around us that we are beloved. Each and every one of us is beloved of God. And so I invite you to just focus on this image as I read for you the poem, Beloved is Where We Begin. If you would enter into the wilderness, do not begin without a blessing. Do not leave without hearing who you are. Beloved, named by the one who has traveled this path before you. Do not go without letting it echo in your ears. And if you find it is hard to let it into your heart, do not despair. That is what this journey is for. I cannot promise this blessing will free you from danger, from fear, from hunger or thirst, from the scorching of sun or the fall of the night. But I can tell you that on this path there will be help. I can tell you that on this way there will be rest. I can tell you that you will know the strange graces that come to our aid only on a road such as this, that fly to meet us bearing comfort and strength, that come alongside us for no other cause than to lean themselves toward our ear, and with their curious insistence whisper our name, beloved, beloved, beloved. With that as story, I now invite you as you gaze upon and experience virtual forest bathing to open your heart as you watch with the eyes of your heart. What was that like for you?
It was wonderful. I don't want to leave and go there right now.
Good. Clearing that path. Yeah. No, although you can't physically go there, you can imagine yourself there. And therefore, you have access to that whenever you could be tense or being thrown out of your zone to kind of just pause in that moment of nurturance and imagine yourself there. So, keeping that as a tool is a wonderful resource. You don't have to be there. It's like, a lucky rabbit's foot. Kids will have to take an exam or something, you have access to that security in your mind. So transporting yourselves and transporting that image to where you are can also be very useful as a tool, as a technique. Okay. So that's one example of how we can take a story of belovedness and rest in that, using whatever means to maybe just immerse yourself emotionally in that space as a way to care for yourself anytime you could be out of your zone or find yourself going too high or too low. So what I'm trying to do this afternoon is really not talk about things, but experience things with you. Open your hearts and your minds. Get away from all of the headiness and have more of the aha. Create tools that you can utilize in all sorts of ways in your ministry, with your colleagues, with family, with friends, with strangers, even with enemies, of course, but have at your disposal various ways without even thinking, but it becomes naturally a part of who you are. And that's what it means to really live your faith. It's not the words, but how we demonstrate in our natural core. In other words, how do we embody Christ as beloved folk? So, how do we embody the work that we are called to do in faith community nursing? So, this is our approach. Comments, questions, statements?
Father Kirtling,
Yes.
um, this was wonderfully refreshing for me because even to this day, behind my mother's house, the house I grew up in, there is the forest or the woods, as we called it. I was looking for the spring to pop up at any minute because as children, we used to go back there and fill up jugs of water with that cold, wonderfully refreshing spring water. And so this was sort of like a traveling back into childhood time,
Mm-hmm.
which was very relaxing. And growing up in that setting, I think really was used of God to just help me appreciate nature and just his creation. And then as we continued down the path, it just reminded me of the stages of life. And anyway, I just wanted to comment that particular video that you shared was very, very refreshing to me, and actually a reminder that that's a place I can go, and I can go there actually realistically because I actually lived in that setting, whether it was behind my mom's home or my grandmother's. It was the same time, the wood situation.
Sure.
And it was just always very, very calming. And I have not actually thought of that in years. It never even
Yeah.
occurred to me to think about the fact that I have that wonderful place that I can go back in my memory or imagination. And
Sure.
that's wonderfully refreshing.
Well, thank you. You just point out one of the pearls I listen as I engage colleagues. In other words, you guys reframe that. So rather than tell you what works or try this, because like for me, I'm a water person. You know, when I feel tense or anxious, or whatever, I need to imagine myself in water. I go to the water every Thursday night on weekends. That's where I write, I create. All this work was done as I was sitting looking at a river. That's where I get my love, my joy. But that may not work for you. So I say, we cannot get to this stage of seasons in life. We're not 2 years of age without having experienced troubles or tribulations or triggers. We are survivors, not victims. So many times our narrative is that of a victim. Woe is me. And we forget, oh, I have survived, I have lived through this. And chances are, what has worked for you in the past may work for you again. So I try to discern with individuals, well, what has worked for, they don't have to tell me what crisis they have been through. They don't have to get that personal, although I wear a purple soul and can hear confession. Yes, but they don't have to go there. But whatever worked for them, and then reframe that such that they have access to that can use again. You have access to that forest. You plague in it, live in it, relax, but now you can reframe that. Oh, I can use that whenever I am tense. So in other words, you are leaning into your own story, your own circle of listening to yourself and others, hence the title of our conversation we're having today, our song, our story. So this is one wonderful example. Thank you for bringing it up. We have more to go, folks. We haven't finished yet. This is just a third of the way through. So I know I have till 1:20. I may have to go over till 1:30 because I have wonderful things I want to share with you. So let me continue sharing, and uh, and I'll do that. And let's see here. Boom. Can you see my screen?
Yes.
Okay, wonderful. Okay. I'm trying to advance and it's not advancing yet. Let's see. Okay. Great. Okay. So the little teaser wrap it up. So now here again, I would like us to listen to this story that I'm going to read from Alan Cohen's book entitled Living from the Heart. Living from the Heart. And as I read this story, because of time, I'm going to invite you to think about a couple things. One thing that opens your heart, one thing that gives you sanctuary. As I read the story, when a woman in a certain African tribe knows she is pregnant, she goes out into the wilderness with a few friends, and together they play and meditate until they hear the song of the child. They recognize that every soul has its own vibration that expresses its unique flavor and purpose. When the women attune to the song, they sing it out loud. Then they return to the tribe and teach it to everyone else. When the child is born, the community gathers and sings the child's song to him or her. Later, when the child enters education, the village gathers and chants the child's song. When the child passes through the initiation to adulthood, the people again come together and sing. At the time of marriage, the person hears his or her song. Finally, when the soul is about to pass from this world, the family and friends gather at the person's bed, just as they did at their birth, and they sing the person to the next life. In the African tribe, there is one other occasion upon which the villagers sing to the child. If at any time during his or her life, the person commits a crime or aberrant social act, the individual is called to the center of the village, and the people in the community form a circle around them. Then they sing their song to them. The tribe recognizes that the correction for antisocial behavior is not punishment. It is love and the remembrance of identity. When you recognize your own song, you have no desire or need to do anything that would hurt another. A friend is someone who knows your song and sings it to you when you have forgotten it. Those who love you are not fooled by mistakes you have made or dark images you hold about yourself. They remember your beauty when you feel ugly, your wholeness when you are broken, your innocence when you feel guilty, and your purpose when you are confused. During these past 24 months of this season of pandemic, name one thing that has opened your heart, and name one thing that has given you sanctuary. Name one thing that has opened your heart, one thing that has given you sanctuary.
And I will go ahead and start. I'm Betty. I'm coordinator for the Faith Community Nurse program here. And one thing that has opened my heart is the inspiration that I've received from our elder and very senior members of our church. Talk about resilience and the things that they have been through. They were well aware, but what opened my heart was that their resilience in figuring we've been through many things before, between war and all kinds of problems, because you don't, like Father said, you don't get to your 70s, 80s, or 90s without trial and tribulation. And they were like, we've gotten through many things before, and we're going to get through this one too. And it just really opened my heart to that sage wisdom of experience and faith.
Right.
Faith. And one thing that has given me sanctuary was actually being able to go out my yard at home. My garden got a lot of attention that it usually is neglected. So, and that was a great place of sanctuary for me.
Great. Thank you for sharing, Pastor. Yeah. Any others?
Any of our guests?
Hello, everyone. My name is Kendra Smith. I'm not a nurse, but I do serve in community with Lucia, and and some of you all here through our vaccine clinics. I'm a minister on staff at Kingdom Fellowship AME Church. And one of the things that has really opened my heart was the opportunity for new relationship and new friendship and new partnership with many of you all actually that are here at Holy Cross. If it had not been for the pandemic, I would have never met many of you. And my life has been changed. My friendship with you all and the kindness that we share together and, working and serving together to help people. One thing that has given me sanctuary really is my personal relationship with Christ. I journal often as a form of meditation and reflection. And I meditate often. It's a part of my daily practice. And being able to come back to that center, even throughout my day, has really helped me to feel a sense of peace and hope in the midst of all of everything that we are faced with. So thank you for allowing me to share. And Father Kirtley, thank you so much. I've so enjoyed this time.
Sure.
Thank you.
Thank you for your presence and thank you for sharing. Yeah, good. Yeah, thank you. Are there others? Each of us has a story to tell. Holy Cross itself has a story. Kingdom Fellowship has a story. All of these stories, we're made up of stories. So I say tongue in cheek that when I went to seminary way back in the Middle Ages, when I was younger and more handsome than I am today, seminary to me was very disappointing. Very disappointing. Why is that? Boy, I said, this guy gathered in the hot Palestinian desert where thousands would gather, for days on end, and mountains and rivers and lakes. And, even a boy was forced to give his lunch up to feed thousands. I mean, who does that? And what was this guy doing? This guy we call Jesus, who is fully God and fully human in our theology, he was telling stories. So I said, I'm going to seminary. I'm going to learn to tell stories. I'm going to be the best preacher, just like Jesus, and gather thousands and save the world. Well, in seminary, I never learned to tell stories, but I could tell you everything about stories. Everything, we tend to be so much in our heads. We want to learn about something, but we don't know how to do it. Hence, my conversation with you today is to experience something, not talk about something. And in your own lived experience, you are seasoned enough to be able to relate something in your past, present, or even future to something we discussed and shared today you've seen. I trust the Spirit. I trust God. I trust you in that. Don't have to sit and dazzle with all sorts of statistics and academic stuff. I'm just as academic as the next person. But Jesus did not go to Harvard or Oxford. He was not Catholic or Episcopalian or Methodist. His culture was Jewish. We have these labels which are meaningless because all of us share a common humanity. It's in that spirit of commonness, that grace-filled presence of God that really invokes in us the ability to care for ourselves and care for others. So part of sharing that story, that community story, the song, to point out the importance of sound. So what is your song? And sound could be a metaphor. It doesn't have to be a whistle or a physical sound. We all don't have the grace of a good voice. But what is about you that you can use as your own resource enables you to have the strength not only to show your own compassion for yourself, but for others, and to take that with you in your well-being and care for yourself and for others. This is just but the beginning of a journey, a conversation, the way how we companion with each other along life's journey. It requires practice and constant presence, just being still in that quiet moment to feel. In other words, to cultivate the art of seeing with our heart, not with eyes. It's all about seeing with our heart. And so because of time, I'm going to end with a video called A Time of Stillness, A Dance of Compassion, which premiered here at Holy Cross on March 4th, when Cardinal Gregory came to bless the COVID medallions to be distributed to all of our colleagues and providers and contracted healthcare professionals. We commissioned two Broadway dancers to come here and film this for us. And all they did, I met with them and gave them a talk on compassion and encouraged them to take that. They spent a day here in June, very quietly looking around. They saw or colleagues at work or physicians or nurses as a way to live into that response to COVID. And I told them, simply this, to use their gifts to create a dance that could be used by our colleagues and familiar images, using the ramp going to 2 South ICU here at Silver Spring, using the entrance to Germantown, the emergency room, the COVID unit, the healing gardens, images that would be important for are known to Holy Cross folks. So we begin to acknowledge where we have been, recognizing we don't always have to use words. Word, symbol, and silence are the three aspects, the three modalities that are critically important in caring for self and others. We tend to use too many words. But what symbols can we use? The symbol of the stones we blessed during the All Souls Day 2 years ago was very meaningful for many to begin to process their own grief and be able to transcend some of the challenges during this COVID period, but really utilize their skill. These are two Juilliard trained individuals. One person, Camille Upshaw, is the current dance captain for the Michael Jackson musical on Broadway that started last month. She's been a swing dancer in Hamilton. Swing dancer means she knows every single part, and she's paid to do that. Therefore, any performance, she could be in a different role. She's been in Flashdance, Bad Girls, so many Broadway productions, and traveled nationally. And she grew up here in Upper Marlboro. You know, her best friend from Juilliard, Chanel de Silver, is the choreographer for the Joffrey Ballet. And together they came, and then they spent a whole day here, July 23rd, filming before crew, with Christian and Tabitha, from 8 a.m. to 8:30 p.m. at Germantown Hospital in here, Silver Spring, to create what you are going to see, a dance of compassion. And I said to them, create an offering of love, kindness, gentleness, and caring that will open the hearts and minds toward healing of our colleagues and providers who have given and continue to give so much of themselves during this global pandemic. That was the only instruction to them. And what I'm going to show you is what they came up with. It's about 5 minutes long, so I do apologize for running over.
No problem.
Can you all see the screen?
Yes.
Okay. Compassion, a warm-hearted concern that unfolds when we witness the suffering of others and feel motivated to relieve it. Thank you all for your time.
Thank you, Father Kirtley. We are very blessed this afternoon to hear your words of wisdom, and the presentation certainly is renewing to our bodies, our minds, and our souls. And at this time, in addition to our gratefulness for you sharing time, I want to recognize two persons that I believe have joined us for our monthly chat for the first time, Reverend Kendra Smith and Stephanie Oakes. So welcome. We do have time. Would you briefly introduce yourselves so that we can get to know our group a little bit better? Stephanie, would you care to go first? Unmute your mic.
Thank you. Hi, I'm Stephanie Oakes. I am the Faith Community Nurse Coordinator for Mercy Health, Youngstown, Ohio. Oh, glad to be here.
Oh, thank you. We're thrilled to have you.
Right.
And Reverend Kendra?
Yes, I think I introduced myself already. I am a partner with Holy Cross, and I serve at Kingdom Fellowship. This has been absolutely amazing. Thank you so very much for the invitation, and I hope this won't be the last time. Thank you so much.
Yes, and we share the same sentiment. We do have a what we call our monthly chat every single week. It is on the fourth Wednesday of every month. So our next one coming up in April will be April 27th. You can be assured of receiving an invitation, but be sure to put your contact information in our chat box, and we will pick that up to include your email and a phone number if you so choose, and we will certainly want to keep in touch with you. So thank you for joining us, and I would be remiss if I didn't also recognize that our Sister Rachel, who's the Chief Officer of Mission Services for so many years and an icon at Holy Cross. Thank you, Sister Rachel, for joining us as well and spending time here this afternoon. Father Kirtley, you certainly gave us much food for thought and much peace to renew ourselves during this season of renewal. So we really do appreciate that very much.
Thank you.
We will close. Lucia has prepared a closing prayer for us, but before we do that, does anybody have an upcoming event that they would like to share with the group? Okay. All right, then we'll proceed with our closing at this time. And once again, Father Kirtley, thank you for joining us, and we hope it'll be the last time.
Thank you.
Well. Lucia, turn it over to you for our closing.
Thanks, Betty. And for those who don't know me, my name is Lucia Segarra from also Faith Community Nurse Program Coordinator. And today I prepare a Franciscan blessing. This one is from the Ignatian Solidarity Network. May God bless you with his comfort, at easy answers, half-truths, and superficial relationships, so that you may live deep within your heart. May God bless you with anger at injustice, oppression, and exploitation of people, so that you may work for justice, freedom, and peace. May God bless you with tears to shed for those who suffer in pain, rejection, hunger, and war, so that you may reach out your hand to comfort them and to turn their pain to joy. And may God bless you with enough foolishness to believe that you can make a difference in the world, so that you can do what others claim cannot be done, to bring justice and kindness to all our children and the poor. Amen.
Amen. Thank you for sharing that. And I'm going to close with just the encouragement that Father gave us to lean into our own story and to be able to hear our own song. So with that, I bid you good afternoon and thank you for joining us today.
Good afternoon. Bye-bye all.
Bye, everybody. I'm trying to get the emails, Betty, if you hear me.
Okay, and I'm going to stop the recording.